Well, hello. It's too close to the bed. Okay. Well, come on. Well, hello, and welcome to my November 2017 update video, where I talk about various movies that I saw over the course of the last month that I didn't talk about already. So before we get into this, I want to address a video I recently made called It Comes at Night Couch Commentary. This video was up for a little bit, but was instantly demonetized and copyright claimed, which I disputed. But even after the dispute, it was blocked in like 6 countries, including the United States, which is my biggest audience. So I have privatized that video until I get a response from Universal Pictures, hopefully in my favor. Should be in my favor, so we'll just have to see how that shakes out. But let's just get into this, shall we? Okay, to start off, at the beginning of the month, I saw 1922, Netflix's movie, and it was okay. I didn't really care about it. I thought it was, there's nothing too special about it. The lead performance is kind of annoying. He seems to be going for this overly gruff, kind of gritted teeth guy, and it just was off-putting. The super slick cinematography, digital look of the movie was also kind of off-putting with the 1922 era aesthetics, so it was okay. I didn't really care. Next I saw South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut for the first time ever, and it was great. If you still haven't seen this movie, it's from like 1999. I don't know why I haven't seen it yet, but it's wonderful, it's hilarious, it's got a lot of great music numbers, and yeah, it's great. So check that one out. Next I saw Murder on the Orient Express, which is quite possibly the worst movie of the year. No, I'm not kidding. This movie is so incredibly bad. Everything it does, it fails. Everything it does, it fails at. The cinematography is so weird and gimmicky. Like there's like shots through stained glass for no reason that go on for way too long. There's a lot of weird one takes of like a top shot that slowly pans down for like 6 minutes and is completely unnecessary. All the characters are expendable and boring and flat. All the performances are over the top and hammy. All of the mystery of the movie is completely undercut by a plot twist that is probably the worst thing that I've ever seen. And the structure of the movie is basically the first 30 minutes is terrible setup for the last part of the movie where the mystery comes into play, but the mystery is not interesting either because it's done in this weird interview style where like it just cuts between the detective guy interviewing this person, then interviewing this person. Oh, then a weird action scene that doesn't make sense. Oh, then interviewing this person, interviewing this person. It's like the most boring movie. It sucks so bad. But let's just move on from that. Next I saw Brigsby Bear, which is a YouTuber movie, technically, and it's probably one of the better YouTuber movies out there. It's not that great. It's kind of uninspired, and the cinematography is very bland, and the story is very cliche and bland, but Kyle Mooney, I think is his name, who started on YouTube. I could be completely wrong with that, but I don't care. He also co-wrote this movie. He writes a movie that's actually very charming in a lot of ways. If it wasn't for such a predictable cliche narrative, I might have liked this movie more. But it's got this real charm to it of like, we're making a movie, me and my friends, we're making a movie. And it really does appeal to someone like me who just, you know, you go out and you shoot a little tiny movie with your friends and you show it to your friends and it's a lot of fun doing it. So it appeals to that, to like my kind of demographic, to people that are getting into film, but not too many other people. Like I said, it's charming in that it's very simple and it takes on a very broad idea, really. So it's okay. I'd say check it out if you haven't already. Next I saw, we'll skip Ingrid Goes West and Good Time. Next I saw France. Not France like the place, but France, F-R-A-N-T-Z, which is a black and white movie about a guy that comes and visits a family, and then the girl goes and visits the guy. and it's okay. The structure of the first half is incredibly dull and predictable, and the structure of the second half is incredibly dull and predictable, although I will give it props in that I expected it to end about halfway in, and then it just kept going. So that one caught me off guard a little bit, but I wasn't blown away. Next was The Black Coat's Daughter, which is a really great little horror movie. It's not like the best movie of the year or anything. It's not even the best horror movie of the year, but it's really solid. It's about a couple girls that go to a all-girls school, and then the trouble ensues. Satan is present, people die, people get murdered, lots of slasher movie kind of things. It's wonderfully shot, it's wonderfully edited, and the performances are fantastic. So I would definitely check it out. It's actually a really solid horror movie. It sort of trips itself up with some of the non-linear narrative stuff that's kind of dumb and gimmicky, but other than that, it's a really good movie that I would definitely recommend. Alright, next I saw Landline. Landline was a movie from the director of Obvious Child. I can't remember her name now, but it's Obvious Child's really good, and Landline is really good. Landline's not quite as good as Obvious Child, but Landline does a really good job at capturing a human dramedy really well. It's not like one of those train wreck kind of movies where the first half is super one-liners, and then the last half gets super serious. This movie does a really good job of handling drama and comedy and balancing it really well, and the performances here are really great, and they really everyone has great comedic timing and great dramatic timing. So the movie balances this sort of dark comedy and this drama extremely well, and I think it's on Amazon right now, so I would say check it out. It's really solid little comedy. It's definitely not the best like narrative. The structure is kind of predictable. The story kind of plays out in a way you'd definitely expect, but for what it does right, it does it really right. So that's a good one. Next up, I saw Blade of the Immortal, which is a movie from acclaimed director of Seven Samurai. I think I can't remember his name, but he made Blade of the Immortal, which is about a samurai that is immortal, which sounds fun on its own, where it's like this guy's just gonna kill a ton of people and he can't die. But that's, I mean, your main character's immortal, so it's kind of hard to fear for him, you know, because he can't die. And so you'd expect these super like robust action scenes where everyone's just like throwing themselves at him constantly and endlessly, but they don't do that. There's like a lot of like one-on-one action scenes that are sort of boring because it's like, you can't die. Why am I watching this? And even the ones that are sort of a elaborate action sequence are so poorly shot that it's kind of hard to see a lot of the action. And it takes a very stupid twist where the immortal guy suddenly like starts to lose his immortality powers, and it's definitely a way to make it more tense, but it just kind of became off-putting to me. So I didn't really like Blade of the Immortal. It's okay. It's definitely, when it isn't in these huge action scenes, it's pretty well shot, it's pretty well acted, and I did actually kind of like the characters, but it's at the service of basically no story and basically no action. So I don't know, I didn't really care for it. Columbus. I saw a movie called Columbus, which is getting a lot of hype. It's about a girl that likes a guy, and they live in Columbus, Illinois. And the whole plot is centered around architecture. So if that sounds interesting to you, you might like it. But I didn't. I thought it was very boring, and a lot of the shots are very bland. Okay, next I saw Gremlins and Gremlins 2. And yes, this was my first viewing of both. Gremlins 1 is a really solid horror comedy set around Christmas time, with a lot of hilarious visual gags, a lot of wonderful gremlins. It's a fun movie. Gremlins 2, though, I actually prefer. Gremlins 2 is a hysterical, self-aware comedy that basically makes fun of everything that made the first Gremlins popular, and I loved it. Gremlins 2 is so off the wall insane that it's amazing. If you haven't seen Gremlins 2, I highly recommend it. I love that movie. There's only a couple movies left. Next I saw Jim and Andy, a Netflix documentary. This movie I really didn't care about. I know it's been getting a lot of praise. I know it's been getting a lot of hype, but I just couldn't get into it. It's the structure of the movie is so boring. Like half of the movie, more than half the movie is footage that's already been shot. That's like 20 years old that they just interspliced with boring interview, straight-to-camera testimonials from Jim Carrey. And the only interesting aspect of the movie is that Jim Carrey is kind of an insane person. And he talks a lot about how playing Andy Kaufman in Over the Moon or something, I can't remember the movie's title, I think it's Over the Moon. Playing Andy Kaufman sort of changed him as a performer. And in that regard, it's okay, but the structure of the movie is so boring, and the straight-to-camera testimonials is so lazy to me, and splicing this 20-year-old footage into that without changing or altering it like at all is very lazy to me. So a lot of this documentary came across extremely lazy and uninspired. Next I saw Mudbound. Mudbound is another Netflix movie set in a farming community, not in 1922. I like this movie a little bit more than 1922, but I got so bored of it so fast. The structure of the movie is following two families, one white and one black, when slavery, it was not slavery, but servants with jobs or slaves with jobs was a big thing. Racial tensions were very high, and so it sort of follows these two families as they try to overcome that. But again, the structure of this movie is so lazy to me. There's so many voiceovers. It's like endless voiceovers. It's like they had no idea how to make this movie without just telling you exactly what was going on and exactly what the characters were thinking. And it left no mystery or no intrigue or no anything. It was so boring. I just didn't care at all. Like, this is November, I guess, is the month of me just not caring. But like, the only movies so far of this month that I liked were movies that are not of this year. Like, I don't know what was going on with this month. But finally, I saw Lady Macbeth, which is, aside from Black Coat's Daughter, is probably one of the better movies of the last month that I saw. It's not great. The cinematography is very hit and miss. Sometimes they're like these wonderful still frames, amazingly shot, and sometimes they're like these stupid, jerky handheld shots that don't really do anything. And then the first half of the movie is incredibly dull. And it sets up this romance between our main character, who's Lady Macbeth, and this servant guy that works for her, and they have no chemistry. They hate each other for the first like 30 minutes of the movie, and then suddenly they get together and they bang a lot, and that's it for the first half. That's all that happens. And then the second half, her husband comes back, and the movie just explodes into betrayals, backstabs, deaths, murder. And the last half of the movie actually gets pretty good. I liked the last half of this movie quite a bit. It's very, very intriguing. It's very tense in a lot of moments, and it mostly works really well. It's just that the first half is so dull. I almost turned it off because I was just like, when is something gonna happen? Come on. And finally it does. It just takes forever. So that movie I would give a little recommend. If you like very slow moving dramas, you'll probably like it. You might like it. I don't know. I was sort of feel like it's a barely above average. But that's it. That's all I saw in November. Shorter video than most. November wasn't a great month for movies, especially at the end here, where there was just literally nothing coming out in theaters because of Star Wars. Like, thanks Star Wars. Thanks Disney for freaking screwing up the last part of this month. You suck. And no, I didn't see Coco, and I don't plan on seeing Coco because I don't like Disney. And I feel like I know exactly what that movie's gonna be without even watching it. If you've seen any Disney movie ever, you already know what it's gonna be. So don't see it. Demand more. But anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. Bye.
Take me back to November. Take me back to November. Hawaiian shirts in the winter, cold water, yeah, take me back to November. What's up? Can we go back to November? Take me back to November. Hawaiian shirts in the winter, deep thoughts, and I'll take me back to November.